Hi, I'm Dan Schmitt. I do a weekly television show called Team Chicago Challenge. My website is teamchicago.tv. My email is teamdan45@gmail.com. So let me know when you see this stuff up on YouTube, what you think of my shows. D-Day, 75th anniversary, June 6th. And there were 15 C-47s that flew into over Normandy. We got 3 of them here. Well, we got maybe more than 3, but I'm going to talk to the owners of 3 of the different aircraft that participated back in on June 6th, flying over Normandy, replicating the D-Day invasion. So let's look at these aircrafts and let's talk to these great Americans that have preserved and fly planes that were built 75 years ago, 80 years ago. And don't forget my website, teamchicago.tv, and don't forget my email, teamdan45@gmail.com.
As we enter Whitman Field, the 2019 EAA AirVenture, over 10,000 aircraft have come to the EAA. 400 warbirds attended the EAA AirVenture in 2019 as we watched this P-51 fire up that B-12 Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, dual overhead cam. What a great sound. This pilot is going to take a passenger for a flight. Let's just sit back and listen to these great sounds. You can never hear this except in 7 days in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, at the end of July. To hear the sound, the feel, the smell. Great aircraft. Aircraft that won World War II. Out in the field with the multi-engine aircraft, I spot this Beech 18 painted in United States Marine Corps colors.
Scott Rozzell from Houston, Texas.
Tell me about the plane.
This airplane is a 1953 Beech 18. It was actually built for the Royal Canadian Air Force. Their designation was a Model 3NM, November Mike. It was a navigation trainer, stayed in the RCAF until the 60s and then ended up in the civilian market where it had a bit of a checkered history until we bought it in the middle 90s.
So how much work does something like this take? How many hours have you put in it?
Well, we spent a lot of time restoring the airplane, and when I say we, my partner and I spent a lot of time taking it from the condition it was in when we bought it, and it was flyable, but it had a lot of modernization or modern improvements on it that we wanted to remove, and we returned it back to its original condition. Although my partner was a former Marine, and as you see, it's painted in USMC colors from El Toro in the 50s, and it's an appropriate paint scheme for an airplane based there at the time. And my partner had grew up near El Toro and had seen the airplanes and fallen in love with them. And he was not about to let me paint it in a Royal Canadian Air Force scheme. We spent about 5 or 6 years working on the airplane, returning it to its original condition. It didn't really need so much restoration as it just needed a lot of TLC. We put new engines and props on it, and then we put an updated panel in it, and then we painted it in the USMC colors, and then we ran out of money and flew it for about 5 or 6 years, and then we added the interior in it, which is not a military or interior if you film that. It's a more comfortable interior that our spouses like.
So, website? You got a website on this?
No.
Or?
No website. This is just now my personal plane. I bought out Jack a number of years ago when he lost his medical, and so I own this with a fellow in Houston named Skip Harrison, who owns Harco Aviation, and together we fly it about 100 hours a year, mostly to go to exhibitions or shows, and we love bringing it to Oshkosh because it's the perfect Oshkosh airport.
Thank you, Scott. And now we spot Devil Dog. Devil Dog looks like a B-25, but this is a United States Marine Corps PBJ converted B-25. As I spot some of the Living History Group folks head over towards Panchito. Look back at Devil Dog. This aircraft, the original Devil Dog, fought in New Guinea. And now we're looking at the Living History Group dressed like a flight crew that would have flown B-25s, B-24s, B-17s. They got the heavier jackets, so this is how they would have dressed in the European theater. And Panchito, from what I understand, was fighting off of Okinawa. As we get to learn, looking at this information, about a set of twins, Bob and Bill Miller. These twins flew on the original Panchito. Panchito, a very nice B-25. Polished aluminum. And I had a chance to talk to the owner, Larry Kelley, about Panchito.
It's Larry Kelley, and I'm the owner and operator, mechanic and pilot of the B-25 Panchito. Panchito was, the original Panchito was a J model B-25 that served with a 396 Bomb Squadron, 41st Bomb Group in Okinawa during the summer of 1945. And this airplane, when it was originally restored, was marked to represent the original Panchito. All the 41st Bomb Group airplanes were taken to the Philippines and destroyed at the end of the war. So the boys that owned this airplane when it was being restored, though, their pastor was Bob Miller, who was one of the Miller brothers, the twin brothers, that identical twin brothers that served on Panchito. Only 5 crews in World War II had twin brothers in their air crew. The Navy didn't let brothers serve together after the 5 Sullivan brothers went down on the Juno. But the Army Air Corps had a rule, the Army Air Forces, Army Air Corps, that twins, key phrase, twins, if militarily feasible, were to be assigned together and not separated. So the Miller brothers used that to do all their training, get assigned together, and do all but one of their combat missions together. Bob got sick one time, wasn't able to make one mission. But when the 3 guys out of Texas were restoring the airplane, they marked it as the airplane. Their pastor, Bob Miller, was the tail gunner and the armor on the airplane. And restoration was finished in 1986 by Tom Riley, who is here this weekend with the XP-82, another 10-year restoration project or total rebuild of an airplane. So I've owned the airplane now for 22 years and been operating it well, all over the United States. For 10 years representing disabled American veterans, and for 20 odd years now, working with the Doolittle Tokyo Raiders. What we're here for this weekend, tomorrow we'll be flying a 4-man missing man flight for Dick Cole, who was the last of the Doolittle Tokyo Raiders. And then we'll be doing that again next April for his internment at Arlington, and for his promotion to colonel just before his internment.
Thank you, Larry. As we see the Living History Group lining up for photos. Earlier, I had a chance to talk to Steve Zahairis.
My name is Steve Zippy Zahairis, and I'm a member of the Warbirds Living History Group. And you can find us every year here at EAA AirVenture. And what we're doing right now here at Panchito, the B-25, is we're doing a photo shoot with gentlemen in the correct period gear of the crew of the B-25 during World War II. So right now we're taking photographs of that crew.
Okay, so tell me all the guys. Just go through their name, you know?
Names? Okay. Starting from the left side, officer, we've got Eli, we've got our colonel, Kevin Wisniewski, and we've got Reeve Wallace, and down on the kneeling on the front row is, at the moment, is Matt Barnes, James Ham, and Corey Vaughn.
Okay, you got an email or anything, or a website?
I do. Absolutely. I'll give you that.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Steve. And remember to go to Facebook, look under groups, and we'll get some information about Steve Zippy Zahairis. Now Larry Kelley is giving Zippy a bomb, and they're going to line up for a final photo.
Hold it.
Corey, I can't see your face.
Oh, it's on my head.
Out in the field for the multi-engine aircraft was a good number of C-47s. 6 or 7 of them were part of the D-Day squadron over Normandy, June 6, 2019, the 75th anniversary of D-Day, June 6, 1944. The D-Day squadron was a group of 15 C-47s flying from the USA to Europe for the 75th anniversary. In 1944, on June 6th, 832 C-47s were part of the D-Day invasion, the largest naval invasion in history. The C-47s brought in paratroopers and 3,937 troops on gliders. I was very fortunate to be able to talk to the owners or crew members of 3 of these C-47s.
Hi, my name's Jon Helminiak. I'm the Executive Director of the Tunison Foundation, which owns and operates this beautiful C-47, Douglas C-47 aircraft, which does have a combat history. It flew on D-Day, dropped paratroopers and towed gliders, and it also participated in a number of other World War II operations, including Repulse and Market Garden. We've restored this aircraft to as close as a World War II configuration as we can get it, at least at this point in time. And I'm proud to say that we just recently returned from celebrating the 75th anniversary of D-Day. We flew this aircraft. In fact, we were the lead aircraft of the D-Day squadron that flew our aircraft, Placid Lassie, along with 14 others, to Normandy to celebrate the 75th anniversary, and then down to Germany to commemorate the 70th anniversary of the Berlin airlift. This aircraft and many, many others dropped paratroopers, did commemorative flybys, and also allowed some of the good people of Germany and France and England, where we started to tour the aircraft and have a look at what is really a piece of living history. There aren't too many C-47s around that actually flew across that English Channel at 1 in the morning on June 6th to drop paratroopers while being shot at by a German anti-aircraft fire. So this girl did it, and we restored her completely to flying condition about 8 years ago, and still keep her flying today through generous donations of individuals who want to see this piece of history continue to educate young people and adults about the greatest generation in World War II.
Thank you, John. On D-Day, June 6, 1944, 13,000 Americans from the 82nd and the 101st Airborne paratrooped in at night starting at 1 a.m. on June 6th. 5,000 British paratroopers from the 6th Airborne also landed behind enemy lines. This year, 1,000 paratroopers celebrated D-Day. Harry Reid at 95, an American, and Jack Hudson at 94, who was a Brit, also parachuted in on June 6th.
It's amazing. It's hard to describe how possibly the last chance we'll have to jump with the veterans from, the last mile marker jump, 25, 50, 75. Potentially the last one, seeing as how they're all in their 90s now. And I got to be a part of it. And just getting up there today and getting out of the plane, it was amazing. Perfect flight, soft landing. Can't ask for much more.
Over 1 million people from around the world were in Normandy for the 75th anniversary. 5,700 French policemen kept everybody safe. And now we're going to talk to the owner of Virginia Ann, and he's going to tell us about being in Normandy.
All right, my name is Coleman Fait. This is the Virginia Ann. It's a C-47/DC-3. We're based out of Flaybob, which is out of Riverside, California. This thing is a 1943 C-47. It flew on D-Day, it flew on Market Garden and Operation Varsity. And then other than that, it flew just mostly cargo, medevac, supplies, anything you wanted to load up in that thing, that's what happened. On D-Day, for some reason that we don't know yet, but the colonel decided to fly it on this, Colonel Mitchell, and he was actually wounded and was awarded the Purple Heart out of it. But then after the war, it went through, it got purchased by Pan Am and it got converted into a DC-3. And these engines are a little bit different than the other DC-3s. These are R2000s, and mostly the benefit of that is just for high altitude airports. So it went down to South America for a little while. And after that, it went through a variety of private users, and then we got a hold of it about 2012, 2013. And it took us about a year to do it. Our mechanic, Joe Garcia with Garza Airways, he's the guy that you want for these things. If it wasn't for him, this stuff wouldn't be possible. He's very detailed, and he spent about a year on this project getting it back into shape. And so then 2014 we flew it here for our first Oshkosh event. And then he's with us at all times. If not physically, he's there by phone, which is great. But so once we found out about the 75th anniversary, and we started thinking about the options or capability of us making it over there. And so after that, Joe Garcia spent about a year, maybe 2 years, just making sure ours was ready, and he also had he was also in charge of 2 other ones. So three C-47s took off out of Flaybob Airport, which is like a little 3,000-foot strip, 50 feet wide, and you had 3 of these things flying out of there daily. And so so we all met up in Oxford, Connecticut. There's 15 there. And then we went to, we did the Blue Spruce route. So we went to Goose Bay, Canada, we went to Narsarsuaq in Greenland, Reykjavik in Iceland, Prestwick, Scotland, and eventually we all met up in Duxford, England. And from there, that's kind of where we were based out of. And then on June 5th, we flew over to Cannes. And then June 6th, we were one of the lucky few that got to fly over the president on June 6th, right over the American Cemetery. It was one of the more magical things that you can possibly think of, especially if you want to, trying to figure out a way to pay it back, So then we spent our time down there. We went as far south as Venice, Italy, and then we flew back. We got back into the States about 2 weeks. We redid the Blue Spruce route back home, and then we left it here in Geneseo, and now we're here. But this is a privately owned C-47. It's my father and I. It's under Mission Boston D-Day. My father's name is by the name of Barry Fait, and that's about it. The reason why it's named Virginia Ann, it was the wife of the captain that flew in the war. And so we were able to locate the family. They're out of Yankton, South Dakota. So we got to spend a day there. We flew over there, and multiple generations of that family came out and greeted us. That was another goosebump feeling, you know, letting the grandkids, the great grandkids go jump up and, you know, Grandpa's plane, you know, it was pretty magical. And so other than the whole D-Day thing, the other things that we do with this thing is we'll just mostly just fly to these air shows, whether it's Oshkosh or Sun and Fun, and any other idea that we can think of. But we're mostly just trying to preserve it for the next people, you know. These things are, you know, working pieces of history, and so you got to do whatever you can to keep them operating. And so that's where we're at today.
Thank you, Coleman. And now we're going to talk to the crew from Miss Montana, another C-47 that was part of the D-Day Squadron, June 6, 2019.
Yeah, my name's Eric Komberec. I'm the president of the Museum of Mountain Flying in Missoula, Montana. And standing behind me is Miss Montana, and this is Randy Stonemann, our director of maintenance.
Hello.
And together we were able to put a group of volunteers together over 10 months and $450,000 to restore and resurrect this airplane from static life of 18 years. And to be able to do that, it took a remarkable group of people and volunteers and community spirit from around Montana, Idaho, Washington, Oregon, and many of the other 50 states. And we were able to successfully complete not one but two Atlantic crossings to join in the 75th anniversary of the D-Day invasion, and then go on into Germany to celebrate and honor the 70th anniversary of the Berlin airlift. And we made it back, and we're enjoying a summer of requests for the airplane all over the United States. We're here at Oshkosh for 9 days, and after this we'll be going to Helena, Montana to join in the 70th anniversary in honoring the 13 firefighters killed in the Mad Gulch fire in Helena, Montana in 1949. So it's a pretty remarkable story. We're 100% funded by donors and volunteers, all volunteer workforce. And I'd like Randy to talk a little more about that. And we're great team.
Well, we had to repair the airplane, do a lot of work on it. Engines out to the shop, get them overhauled. Props had to go out for overhaul and get inspected. Take the airplane down to, not quite to nuts and bolts, but pretty apart to clean and inspect and re-protect and repair.
So year of the plane, what year was this one built?
This aircraft was built May 5th of 1944 is when the Army Air Corps accepted it, and went into service with them for about a year and a half before it got sold off as surplus to Johnson Flying Service.
And so where was it sitting for?
So the airplane spent from 46 to 75 in Missoula, Montana, working for Johnson Flying Service, hauling smoke jumpers, firefighters, tractors, bulldozers, hay, chickens, anything you can imagine, and actually built the airstrips of the Northwest. Many of them in the wilderness, backcountry strips of the mountains. And then in 75, it was sold to Evergreen Aviation, and would go on to spend the next 25 years hauling freight all over the world. And in 2000, a group at the Museum of Mountain Flying were able to put together the money to buy the airplane from McNeely Air Charters, brought it home to Missoula, and we built about $1 million facility to house it. And so since 2000 and 2001, we haven't had the energy, the money, the finances, or the volunteer maintenance, to keep an airplane like this running. It's very expensive. It's thousands of hours of labor. So we were able to put together the Miss Montana to Normandy committee to fundraise, and the rest is history. We took an airplane like this. We put a famous decorated nose art from a World War II bomber, a local Montana pilot. We put it on this airplane, and we went and made new history with it over in Normandy. So we'd like to call it, this is Montana's airplane. We're just lucky enough to be the caretakers of it.
Thank you, gentlemen. And now we're looking at footage from the takeoff from Doxford, England, as the 30 C-47s that was Placid Lassie first, and now we're seeing Miss Montana. 15 American aircraft, 15 C-47s from the rest of the world participated as we see Placid Lassie taking off. And now we spot X5 is Virginia Ann, the C-47 from California, as we spot Miss Montana taxiing. Virginia Ann is also taxiing, and now we see Miss Montana taking off, heading to Normandy. And now Virginia Ann is heading down the runway. Special thanks to Dax over Normandy, Global News, Daily Mail, and This Is Flight for the additional video footage from Normandy. For more information on D-Day Squadron, it's daxovernormandy.com. Their mission was to bring North American-based Dakotas, or C-47, to Normandy in 2019. For information on the Experimental Aircraft Association, it's EAA.org, airventure.org, and join us in 2020, July 20th through 26th. To contact me, it's teamdan45@gmail.com. Let me know what you think. I was honored to be able to produce this TV show for YouTube.